Okay, this is problem number 10. This is assignment 3-2 in Algebra 1. So we're talking about solving systems of equations using the substitution method. So here we have another story problem, word problem. So again, the key here is to just look through the problem, read through it, kind of pick out the key words, and try to set up some equations that represent the situation. So here's the situation. The admission fee at an amusement park is $1.5, so $1.50 for children and $4 for adults. Okay, and then on a certain day, there were 229 people entered the park, and the admission fees totaled $606. And so they want to know how many adults and how many children were admitted there. Okay, so we got to read through this and try to understand what it is we're trying to look for. So we're looking for how many children and how many adults were admitted. So those are going to be the variables that we want to look for, right? Those are the answers. So the number of children and the number of adults, those are going to be our variables. So I'm going to write this down here. I'm going to say A represents the number of adults, and C represents the number of children. All right. So that's always where I want to start with these. I want to figure out what my answer is going to be and then make sure I have variables that represent those answers. Okay. So I'm looking for how many children and how many adults. All right. Let's read through the rest of this. I know that the park charges $1.50 for each child. Now the word "for" there is critical, right? $1.50 for children. That means per, or it means multiply. So for every child that comes in, they're going to charge them $1.50. So if 2 children came in, it'd be 2 times $1.50. If 5 children came in, it'd be 5 times $1.50. So that word "for" means multiply or times. Okay. And the same thing here. I know that they charge $4 for adults. Okay. So I know that I'm going to be multiplying, right, some stuff here. And then what do they tell us? They tell us also that there, on a certain day, there were a total of 229 people who came into the park. So there was a total of 229 people. So that just means that the number of children and the number of adults, if I add those numbers together, it's going to be 229. Okay. So this represents a total here, right? And so when we're talking about totals, we're talking about adding things together. So that's going to be the first equation that I'm going to write. So I know that A represents the number of children, or a number of adults. C represents the number of children. And it told me that, well, if I take the number of adults and the number of children and I add them together, there was a total of 229 people that came through the park that day. Okay, so there's one equation. It also tells us that they collected a total of $606. Okay, so we're talking about the cost here, right? Or how much money was involved, and it totaled. So I know it's going to equal $606. But what am I adding up? Well, I'm adding up the money that they collected for children's tickets and the money that they collected for the adult tickets. So I know that they charge $1.50 for each child, and $4 for each adult. Remember that word "for" means multiply. And so I think we can write that equation. So I know that they charge $1.50 for each child plus $4 for each adult. And I know that the total amount of money that they brought in was $606. Okay, so there's that multiplication, right? There's that word "for." $1.50 for each child and $4 for each adult. And there was a total, right? Total means we're adding these together. And the total is $606. So now we have a system of equations. We have 2 variables, we have 2 equations. We should be able to solve that. This section is on using the substitution method, so I'm going to use the substitution method to do this. So that means I want to get one of the variables all by itself. So I'm just going to choose the variable a here, just because it's convenient, and I'm just going to subtract c from both sides. And so my first equation is now going to be a is equal to 229 minus c. Okay, so there are my two equations. And this is all ready for substitution now. I've got this a variable all by itself, so I can replace a with 229 minus c in the first equation. And so if I rewrite that first equation using substitution, I'd have 1.5c plus 4 times a. And instead of a, I'm going to write 229 minus c. That's the substitution. And that's a total of 606. And so now I can work through this problem. So I have 1.5c plus 4 times 229 is 916 minus 4c. So I'm distributing this, right? This times this and this times this, and that's going to equal 606. I'm going to go ahead and combine my like terms here. So negative 4 plus 1.5, that gives me negative 2.5 c plus 916 is equal to 606. I'm going to scroll down a little bit here. I'll keep solving here. Go ahead and subtract 916. So that gives me negative 310. So I have negative 2.5c equal to negative 210. Divide both sides by negative 2.5. And I get that c is equal to 124. Okay, so that means there were 124 children that came through that day. And I know that to find the number of adults, I can go back to this equation here. And I can say, well, I know that my number of adults is 229 minus 124. And so I get 105. So my adults, there's 105 adults that came through. So there are my two answers. And so in my question now, I'd fill in the number of children that equals 124, and the number of adults is 105.